We don't have any decision to make with that annexation. Okay, thank you. I mean, not.
No.
Where are we at?
We are on 5.
So,
EUAR.
the Soil Water Conservation District is number 5. Are we ready to go, Trace?
I'm trying to get Troy ready here. Are you ready to record, Sydney?
Yes, recording just started.
All right, we're recording now, so we're ready to go with the Soil Water Conservation District presentation.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Troy Kofal, Director of Scott Soil and Water Conservation District. We're happy to again be in front of the board and just sharing information with you about the Soil and Water District and some of the outcomes and priorities we have. I'd like to start out by just acknowledging members of my board who are present this morning with Doug Schenecker, Rob Casey, and Gary Hartman. They'll be helping out. We have questions. So, okay. Okay. So I'll spend a few moments, just a quick introduction, then go into some budget figures, and then drill down into some more of the detailed outcomes and priorities. I'll begin with our board again. Our leadership is a 5-member elected board. You can see them on the picture below, 3 of them as mentioned, Rob, Doug, and Gary. Not present are Dan Giles from the Savage area, and then Pete Beckius. For many, many years, you might know Jim Fitzsimmons was a representative, and he was on the board for what must have been close to 20 years. But he moved out of the county. Actually, he's up in Eden Prairie, and so we have an interim appointee, Pete Beckius. And if those of you have been around for a while know Pete, he was an employee with the district for I think 35 years. He retired, and I actually took his spot at that point back in 2009. Here's our amazing team. We're at 13 individuals, down from one staff position from last time we met. Reason is just to keep our operation running lean. We have more work than 13 people, but we have less than 14, so we're sticking with the 13 for now. If you've seen my presentation before, I give a little history on it, but basically starting back to the 1940s with the Dust Bowl, we were voted to be, or I would say petitioned to be in existence, but now it's been 85 years, and all 85 of those years have been in partnership with the county, so there's been a very close relationship for a long time. Our mission is to promote and support conservation of natural resources in Scott County. But one thing you will notice is we don't say is that we protect natural resources. We don't do that. We basically help landowners who do that. So our job is to promote and support that activity, and also can be with local units of government, watershed organizations, and others. So we ourselves don't really own land or manage it, but we can help others who do. Drilling now more specifically to Scott County. So I see our role with the Scott County a little more refined, and that is to help the county implement its plans and programs in a seamless and professional and efficient manner as possible. Also to be available to complete like one-off or specialty projects that we have expertise in. And then thirdly, to meet demands during periods of high workload. So rather than the county staffing up or bringing on other consultants, there are projects that we may be able to fit in well and achieve those goals on a temporary basis. The lag here. Okay. I don't want to press too many buttons.
That's what you want to do.
So there are several different levels of county support, digging into the financial part of it. The first one I'd refer to as like base support. This is broken into 2 different areas. One is just what I would refer to as maybe like a block grant, where every year the county gives us a base level funding. It's currently 92,000. That comes out of the general levy. But the other piece of that, and perhaps even more valuable, is the in-kind. So the county provides our office space, all the IT support, the GIS support, legal support. Those sorts of things are all in-kind. And the 124 is an estimate. It's really hard to really pin down what the exact number is. But together, those resources help us basically keep the lights on and operating as an organization and to do everything we need to do as a government organization. So that's what that helps us do. This graph is intended just to show like high level what that support has been from the county. You can see back in 2002, there was almost $300,000. That was just a cash grant to the Soil and Water every year. But you see a drastic decline in 2004. Now, we didn't lose 70% of our funding all in 1 year and have to lay off staff. But what happened was a big funding shift or a funding model shift, where rather than the county just supporting everything we do with a big grant, was we went to more of a contract for services model where we work now in specifically and directly with all our local government units, whether the water organizations, cities, townships, what have you. So in the end, that has really resulted in a kind of a very maybe unpredicted but very positive outcome in terms of it really caused us to expand our partnerships, expand the diversity of our services, as well as be more tenacious with going out and getting grants. What this graph shows is the different sources from a summary level of where our revenues come from. And they range from very specifically in the county area to funding that we receive through fees and services as well as grants as a soil and water organization. And then also all our other local government unit partners. The next graph shows just kind of how that breaks down, but I'll focus your attention on the different sectors. So the blue area are the revenues that come generally from the county. They include that base level support, which represents about 10%. So that 92,000 base grant and then the in-kind account for 10% of our budget. The other remaining areas in blue are our contract services. So we provide a service on an hourly basis to help the county achieve its goals and programs. And then the other piece of that is the ditch authority. In the orange hues are what Soil and Water Conservation District, there are revenue sources, again, from grants and fees for sales and services of programs. That accounts for about 45% of our total budget. And then our services to Watershed District and other LGUs account for about 36% of all our revenue. And in that, I include the WMO as a watershed organization, but there's that could be either blue or yellow, obviously, as it's connected with the county board.
And just for our clarification, that WMO revenue, that's from WMO specific levy. I know their budget.
Correct.
So, okay. So it is still Scott County levy, but Scott County WMO levy. Thank you.
Yeah. So our core services are technical assistance and care, countywide education program, regulatory program assistance, water quality, well monitoring, and other technical services. But if we go down and drill down into specifically the services for the county, we can go with the levy, then there's grants, and then there's special assessments, fees, and levies. But for the general levy, we provide services directly to individual departments through a joint powers agreement. I work with Brad on an annual basis to identify what those services are and what the budgets are. Essentially providing services here for 4 different departments, including highway, zoning, parks, and natural resources for a total of $44,500. The yellow highlighted are the 2 new things that are coming up in 26 here. First with the highway, with some retirement in the highway department, the highway department decided to contract with us to help manage their weed program along county roadways. That includes the grass ditches along most county roads, and then also the bare ground treatment, which is treating the weeds and other growth and cracks along county roadways. So this is the first year of that. Basically, we're trying to incorporate that into the township spray program, so we're all doing it efficiently and really comprehensively as possible. And then natural resources, the new thing is earthworks permitting. I'll get into that in a bit. The other two, as I mentioned, one is pass-through grants. So both natural resources and environmental services has grants that they utilize to pay for work that we do. The specific one under natural resources is the funding that helps us administer the Wetland Conservation Act. In environmental services, it's the recycling grant. So we provide support to promote recycling throughout the county and to try to get other grants. The lion's share, though, is under that special fees and levies. So to that point, the Scott W. Moore obviously is its own levy. The services in there are pretty consistent year to year, although this past year, due to them being in the process of updating their plan, we're not really doing any inventory assessment work or monitoring. So those you see crossed off. But obviously, that's the lion's share right there, $475,000. Total in this category is $532,000. And here's just a graph kind of showing how that breaks down. So the general levy piece of that is about 7% of all the county funding. The rest comes from those grants and those special levies and assessments. Just a few other notes about some additional value we feel we can offer is one is we have access to some different state and federal grants that other agencies wouldn't have access to. On average, if we look over the past 10 years, we've averaged about $560,000+ in grants bringing into the county. And that does have an expanded economic impact when you look at how those funds are used to pay for contractors and materials and supplies to implement conservation on the ground. The federal USDA did a study on the economic impact of conservation dollars and using their formula. That 562 would translate into a little over $2 million in total economic value throughout the county. Of course, we have our specialized knowledge, expertise, and relationships. And then we provide capacity, not just for the county, but for all the LGUs. So townships, cities, watershed districts, as I mentioned, to implement their plans and programs as well, with the hopes of avoiding duplicating and be able to provide up and running expertise to get projects done quickly. This is just a summary table of different LGUs and all the services we provide to each of them. I'm going to drill down now in some of the outcomes and maybe priorities, beginning with our bread and butter program is conservation technical assistance. So the county has about 80,000 acres of cropland, and most of the erosion that occurs throughout not only Scott County, but the state and country, it really goes unnoticed. A lot of times you'll see severe erosion like gullies and things form. That's significant, but far more significant is the erosion that doesn't occur. So when we're out there working with farmers, a lot of times we're addressing erosion that is really not that visible. There's also over 110,000 acres of urban and maybe rural residential land that isn't the best in terms of planning for water quality or wildlife habitat. So we work with landowners on values of quality of life and just improving the habitat quality and the water quality benefit of lands that otherwise aren't planned specifically for that. Last 10 years, we've worked with over 2,490 residents, put in over almost 830 projects on the ground with a total value of about $7 million, and it's 100% voluntary. We at any given time will have about 25 to 30 different types of practices that we'll work with landowners to implement, but here's some of the main ones. They range from agricultural engineering, large projects to control gully erosion, down to cover crops and soil health related practices. And then when we worked with the smaller urban or rural residential landowners, we do things like natural landscaping, rain gardens, pollinator habitat, groundwater protection through well sealing type projects. So a wide range of different services and programs. One of our more popular programs is our annual tree and plant sale. We have 23 different species of trees and shrubs and 6 different types of mixes for plants, plus rain barrels and compost bin. Last year, we sold 30,000 trees and over 5,000 plants, but that range anywhere from 25 to 35,000 trees in any given year and 5 to 7,000 individual native plants. So it's a very popular program. It goes up and down depending on the economy, but generally those are the figures we look at each year. This year we had a little over 400 orders, and this is in fact is what we call Tree Week. We have major distribution happening on Friday. We get hundreds of people come and pick up their trees like we do every year. The plant sales runs from May 1 through June 1, and then pickup for our plants, the 5 to 7,000 plants happens in June. So if you want to order plants, you'll be able to starting May 1. Trees, if you want trees, you can come out to the shed out on the county fairgrounds there and maybe pick up some extras, but come early because they go fast. One of our maybe not as well-known programs is our equipment rental program. So the Soil and Water District has a variety of different equipment ranging from large farm implements down to little handheld tools to help individual landowners with invasive weed control. But I'll point your direction to the large equipment. So essentially these are what we call no-till drills. And what they are is equipment that helps farmers plant their crops in a more environmentally sustainable way. Over the past 6 years, our equipment has gone out on over 17,000 acres. And you can see the trend from 2019 to current, it's increasing. And so a big part of our emphasis is on soil health and protecting that soil layer. Again, the invisible erosion. And that graph just pretty much points to the fact that emphasis is starting to reveal itself in outcomes. And that what we're seeing is farmers are increasingly planting their crops in a way that's more environmentally sustainable and better for the county's water quality.
Troy, just a question there. Do you feel like you have enough equipment to meet demand? How have you changed rental rates on that? Because I know you say it's often acknowledged or underknown about.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, we actually have the piece of equipment there is a John Deere no-till drill. It's a 15-foot wide unit. We now have 2 of them. So we did double we applied for and received a state grant to help us buy a second one, and they're out now all the time as well. So we're growing that. We used to have another planter that was only 6 foot. We increased that to 10 foot because the amount of time it takes a farmer to plant a crop is very important. So we got a slightly bigger piece of equipment to make that more feasible for them to use. Our prices, we kind of keep low. Every couple of years, we'll increase the per acre rate, but we try to keep it as basically enough to sustain our program. So our partners, including the WMO and Prior Lake and other watersheds, they pay for the time to administer this program. But the rental fees that we charge pay for the equipment repair and replacement. So we just get enough to make sure that we can keep this equipment operational and renew it when we need to.
Are you seeing an increase in the number of users? I know in the number of acres, but are you counting? Yes. Users?
It's a good question. In fact, we see more users with slightly less acres.
Oh, okay.
The larger operators,
Right.
case in point, Rob Casey, they buy their own equipment
Right.
eventually. And that's really the goal, is to have farmers try this type of equipment, and then hopefully it works and they're buying their own equipment to do that on a more full-time basis. So it's kind of a counterproductive goal, if you will. To
That's
try to
good.
get farmers to use their equipment, but then actually not use it because they've gotten their own.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes. They all have their slides in front of them. Okay. Oh, there it is. Yep. So a kind of a cohort to the equipment rental is our field services program. So this equipment you see pictured is our own equipment. We actually go out and do certain types of services, including seeding native prairies, interseeding pastures, mowing and spraying. So we have two tractors. We've got the John Deere on the left there, and brand new this year is that Kubota tractor in the lower right. And it's pulling a seeder, which is also new. So it's kind of a setup that'll roll onto a trailer that will take to different sites and actually do a lot of seeding into bare ground or no-till into existing vegetation, primarily to meet the demands of converting either cropland or non-native areas into native prairie. So that's what that is intended. So case in point, it's not rental equipment, but it's a service that we provide to meet a lot of that growing demand. Especially as more and more land is divided and you see more rural residential, large lot rural residential lots. That's to help meet that growing segment of the demographic. And in the upper right is a side-by-side Kubota along with a small seeder as well. That's meant to be used for much smaller sites, even like less than an acre. So,
Do our smallest city jurisdictions contract with you for this,
uh,
like Credit River?
So we have done seedings for Credit River, City of Shakopee. We got one coming up in Belle Plaine. So yeah, we'll
Yep.
actually do this type of work for them as well.
And it's a fee for service?
Yep, on a fee for service, correct.
Hey Troy, quick question, with those tractors in the bottom,
Yeah.
is there a fight, at the org to like, hey, I want the heat and AC? You get the open routes? No?
No fighting
Okay, good.
because only one person operates them.
Got it, all right.
So he's okay. It's the pick which one he wants. So regulatory support, our work in that area revolves in the natural resources and zoning. Basically, we see our role is to help folks coming in for permits to achieve their goals, but stay within the confines of law. It's not to like restrict or, make it difficult for them, although it seems like that often, but our job is really, we want to help people get to their goal, but also within the confines of whatever applicable laws apply. For the natural resources, as mentioned earlier, what we did was starting in late November and throughout December of last year, we stood up the Earthworks permitting program. So that's, it's a separate program now, but it's really an offshoot of what has been done for the last 20, 30 years. And that is with the building permits, there's always been a piece of that called erosion sediment control. So they have to have a plan, we review that plan, and then it'd be rolled into the building permit. So it's essentially hasn't changed from that. It's just a separate permit and we can move quickly on each one. Everything is online. So the application is online, payment is online, and we can often turn around this permit much faster than the building permit is issued. So sometimes we're just sitting on our permit waiting for other pieces of the building to be issued or the building permit to be issued. And then we'll click the button and issue our permit as well. So our goal again is to be as efficient and unencumbered as possible for the permittee. As far as their side is concerned, the permittee, it's not really doing different things for us. It's the same plan they've always had to do. It's just a different format that they're. In 2025, we did 123 plan reviews under the old system. We're currently at 40 under the new system. So January 1 through today is about 40 earthworks permits that we've issued. Now that's not the soil and water permit. We're basically issuing it for the county. It's not a soil and water permit. And last year we did over 2,500 construction site inspections. New in 26, as I just mentioned, we've launched and are underway with the new earthworks permit program. We do the plan reviews, we issue the permit, we do all the inspections, and of course offer the customer support.
Troy, just one note, when the building permit was combined with the erosion and sediment control permit, we had a couple of situations where after you close the building permit, issue occupancy, really couldn't do much more on the erosion and sediment control side. That that also expired when the building permit, and that led to some compliance issues and some enforcement issues. So I think what we decided to do is separate these being a standalone permit so that when the building permit is issued, still hold an escrow and ensure compliance on the earthwork.
Township Weed and Brush Program, so we've reported on this in the past. We've completed our 4th year now, working with 8 townships, up from 6. We do the annual mapping and management plans. Just a little fact here is that when we started the program, in that first year, we did over 72 acres of spraying to try to get ahead of the thistle and the wild parsnip and whatnot. This past year, we did 13. So we've seen over 70% increase in the amount of acres. And that's the purpose of this program. We had to get ahead of it. But long-term, the idea is to do as little spraying as possible because you're actively managing this issue. In addition to that, over the 7-year or 4-year period, we've been able to acquire grants, offsetting the cost to local townships by about 70%. So we've not only improved management of the right-of-ways within the townships, but we've made it a lot more cost-effective as well, both by terms of offsetting with grants and reducing the need for spray. In 26, our priorities is to again incorporate the county highway program into that. So when we're going through the townships, we're going to hit the county roads at the same time we're hitting the township road all in one pass. So we look forward to that efficiency and reduce cost countywide.
So I get to send all complaints about weed control on roads to you guys.
Yes, yes.
Sorry.
Megan Darley, happy to take those calls. But yes, that's true. That's what we're here for, to provide that support.
I like the consistency because a lot of times the callers have roadways on both township and county. And
That's right, yes.
if we're not on the same page, that just creates some problems. So I'm
One-stop
really
shop.
happy about this.
Very
And
good.
this-
Yep.
Oh, and the ditch, I love
If you
the,
get calls, do send them our way. We'll
Yeah.
have them out.
yeah, the next slide, the last white bullet is, so I'm very happy about that.
Oh, that one, yeah. Ditch inspection, so of course, we were delegated in 2022. There's currently 8 ditches, 6 entirely in Scott County, 2 are joint. Our role is basically to make sure the system is maintained, function, and like you said, keep the farmers and owners happy. Our goal for about 25, we saw the abandonment of a number of systems, which is great, and then starting on transfers on a couple others. The goal in 26 would be to help facilitate the completion of the 2 transfers, County Ditch 4 and 13. We got some repairs on County Ditch 10 that are underway. We want to finish those up. We have a 3-year program to do maintenance on Joint Ditch 3, which connects to the County Ditch 10. We completed all the tree removal this spring. Now we're going to go into wholesale sediment removal and obstruction removal. That'll be the next phase. We did an inspection report on County Ditch 6 that's down in the Winker subdivision area, east of Cedar Lake. We had a landowner meeting the other week and we'll basically pursuing some interest there. I don't think the group of landowners there are interested in abandonment. So we'll be pursuing likely a redetermination of benefits in that for that system. That system is well over 10,000 acres and maybe 550 are actually benefited. So it's well due for a redetermination of benefits. And then there's physical limits to how effective that ditch is ever going to be just because how flat it is, but there's certainly improvements and we can maximize its efficiency. Drone services, just keep this in front of the county. If you need high level accuracy, LiDAR technology, we have that capability. In 25, we documented the monthly progress of the Marion Junction Trail project. Those are all posted on the county's website. There's a lot more available if interest exists. We stopped though as of January 1 because of a federal issue with using this particular type of drone, which is 99% of all drones come from China and anything that has federal funding. So we basically had to stop due to security issues. So we're kind of sorting that through that issue. But currently, we're not really actively fighting because we don't want to put any federal funding in jeopardy. That's the issue here. If there was no federal funding, it wouldn't be an issue, but that's something we need to watch out for. So we're not sure where we're going with 26. Although we do have some small projects. One of them is with Prior Lake Spring Lake, where we do an aerial flight over to Sutton Lake, and we create ortho mosaics to assess the weed vegetation and population. Final slide, here's McMahon Lake. There's nothing new to report on 2025. We didn't achieve anything really. We're getting held up on getting these easements. We have commitments or at least strong support from 2 of the 3. The third one just more or less stopped talking. So we went to a different route and now we're on a 3rd iteration as well. We're looking at, I updated my board on a regular basis and we're all kind of frustrated with the progress on that and being held up, trying to get these easements locked in. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I think we have some alternatives in the hopper that would allow us to proceed this year and actually start construction. That's what my bet is on.
The option is staying within the right of way, the county road right of way, where we don't have to get these easements.
Or then maybe use your drones.
But I mean, at some point otherwise, we just need to be done, right? Because we're spending,
Doesn't like,
Too much time.
done,
just cancel the whole thing?
yeah.
Because that lake is down a lot now, right?
That's a good thing.
It is, but, because I think some of those landowners out there have buyer's remorse. They're thinking, this thing went down on its own now, why are we gonna spend, I don't know how much you're gonna spend every year or whatever.
But the highway department has figured out a way to run it through ditching on Highway 8 to where we need to get. Okay.
We have the engineer doing a preliminary design on that option, a cost estimate, which we'll present and talk through with Brad. If the cost is feasible, we'll probably pursue that route. If everything's, green lighted, we'll be able to move ahead. I don't have any doubt that we'll be able to secure in writing the easements from the 2 properties, and then we'll have to work with the county on some kind of easement in the right of way over that pipe because of Minnesota management budget requirements dealing with it. So having a permit is not sufficient in their mind to put this pipe in the right of way. They have to have some sort of easement. But we'll work with Brad and the legal attorney's office on that. So I think I just want to end by saying thank you. We really appreciate your partnership, the staff and the board likewise, and appreciate the opportunity to work with you and present yourself. Any questions?
Any questions?
Back on an earlier slide, just with traditional, long-term services, what's kind of the trend, Ben? What are you seeing? Are there anything that you're seeing that the agency maybe isn't going to do anymore, or not need to do, and what are the things that are increasing? I think on the county level, we have to look at that a lot, like.
So crystal balling, I would say that our traditional demographic of your farmers is and some of the more expensive erosion projects they work on, I think we've basically addressed most of the low-hanging fruit. So we're going to see less of that in favor of more preventative type of things like the soil health, where we're doing less erosion, using cover crops and preventing erosion is going to be more of the norm in the future rather than Band-Aids or fixing erosion problems. And then also just the change in demographic from less rural to more urban or non-farm. That's going to cause us to shift those types of services that people are looking for, from more of the ag-based practices to more the urban, natural landscaping type of things. And then for us too, what we're seeing more and more as evidenced by some of the different things we're doing is just diversifying the services we provide to meet the needs, mainly driven by county, but also with the watershed organizations. As they have new or different types of programming, we want to adjust and be agile to be able to meet those needs. So.
You're looking to say this. Yeah, we would love you to do more with those organizations, I think. And I know that our county and soil and water relationship is a little unique compared to some of our colleagues across the state. Other thoughts on that? Anything that counties and soil and water conservation districts are doing together that we're not doing, or that we should think about that could be more, again, efficient for the average taxpayer?
Yeah, there are a lot of districts that do more planning, like water planning, but that's not typical what you see in the metro area. And a lot of districts, they don't have this fee for service model that I talked about. They're more or less, they get large allocations from their county, hundreds of thousands. If you look in the case of Stearns, it's over $1 million. Here's your money, go and do good things. Our model is more typical of others in the metro area where we have these annual fee for service contracts. There's just a lot of segmentation in the whole water management world and natural resource management. Kind of daunting. You know, we try to navigate that through and really focus on the implementation pieces, but I think there's definitely directions we could go to make that efficient.
Are all 87 counties have an SWCD?
No, like Ramsey, for example, and Hennepin, they got rid of the soil and water board, and they've taken the responsibilities under 103C and put them within a department of county government. And there's a few counties where they share a soil and water district. Yeah.
So a couple counties share it, which is but they're still elected officials from those two counties somehow?
Correct. East Otter Tail and West Otter Tail.
Unfortunately, I feel like Ramsey, when they went through that change 20 years ago or whatever, gave them power to their water management organizations as they got rid of their SWC.
I think that can be an outcome.
So it's like they did the opposite.
But there could be a discussion, right? It's still county-wide versus smaller
Right.
little. Yeah,
Right.
we should talk about that, I think, moving forward.
Definitely.
I was just gonna say, this crew down at the end here, last time I saw that crew, we were walking the halls of the Senate building looking for some money. And if they have any excess, if they found any excess, we wouldn't mind helping it for the benefit of the taxpayer. Because we know you guys got it done down there. How did that go?
Good. I mean, we were well received. They kind of get familiar with their faces that time of year,
Yep,
like when we come.
no, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was, I thought we were well received. You know, other topics outweigh some of our goals, as you might be aware of what happened with, yeah, finances, some finances this year. Yeah, but they were, do it every year.
Yep, no, it's good.
And we've always, our motto, well, just a little history, I was an employee for 37 years way back, and then retired and got back on the board a couple years later because I missed being part of the conservation movement in Scott County to improve water quality and soil health and so on. And yeah, we've always had the motto, we beg, borrow, and steal from wherever we can. We right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have accounting systems for 28 or 29 different sources of funding that come in, and we have to keep tabs on that. So, you know, we do the best job we can in trying keeping, you know, the county funds or the county monies as low as we can coming in, by writing grants and working with partners and, yeah.
We ourselves have 15 direct grant awards at any given time and manage up to 26.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Thanks for doing that because it, you know, those relationships and knocking on those doors down there or up there, whatever. And working with the folks that you do, like I mention this every time, I feel like, hey, you know, we're doing different events or I always ask the question, hey, are you guys getting value? You know, the constituents go, oh yeah, we're getting value. So some great opportunities that people can take advantage of. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
We beg and borrow, but we don't really steal.
Hey,
Yeah, unless there's an
Anybody have anything wrong, Rhonda? You do? Go ahead.
Hearing the brief.
Oh, pass. Too late. Kidding.
One thing is, I just wanted to say, and this is the reason I have to leave at 2 today. Lisa Brodsky and Mary Kay Stevens did an application for this NACO Public Health Academy, and we were chosen, only 12 counties from 10 states. And NACO's gonna pay for me and Mary Kay to go to DC beginning of June. We're working on looking at access to substance use treatment for pregnant women in Scott County and trying to increase that. So that's kind of cool. And that's why I'm gonna leave at 2, because I have to be on the first call about it. And just a reminder that I'll be remote for our May 5th meeting, so any publication or notification about that would be great. Thank you. That's all.
You got anything, Jody?
Nope, I think I said everything I needed to say at the meeting about trans.
Tonight's the township meeting, so you're all invited.
Oh, thank you.
You want to be there, but you don't want to go.
Something like that.
Who is going? You are. You are. I'm debating, I have a.
So do you have anything for our,
All of you. Thank you. Can you grab the slides? You want me to- I will get them out. Nope, you can. Oh.
All right, do we go around and see who's here or? I don't know, anyway.
That would be very good, I think.
Start up at the corner here with Jake.
All right, Jake Rusing, Transformation and Enterprise Services Director, Scott County.
Hi, I'm Katie Malika. I'm in quality for Scott.
Hi, Suzanne Arnson. We know each other.
Good afternoon, Barb Dowell, Health and Services Director.
I'm Lloyd Erba. I'm a resident.
Jody Brennan, Scott County.
Hi, Barb Weckman, Brecky, Scott County Commissioner.
Leslie Vermillion, the Scott County Administrator.
John Ulrich, County Commissioner.
Dave Beer, County Commissioner.
Cindy Manabe, Deputy Clerk to the Board.
Brad Davis, Director of Physical Health.
Danny Lang, the Director of Office of Management and Budget. And Michael Bushman, Community Engagement.
My sister Franco.
Who are you?
Tom Wolf.
Welcome. Awesome. Well, is the floor ours, or do you want to?
Well, say your name.
We'll go through an introduction. Yeah.
And did you guys say your names over here?
Not yet.
That's no, the back row doesn't, you gotta say.
I'm Rachel Ruskus. I'm our contracted piece and utility here at Scott.
All right, go ahead.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. We got a full house, and we've got a full team here too. We wanted to make sure that we were able to answer whatever questions you might have. I'm Jeff Mortensen. I serve as the president and CEO at 360 Communities. Have been with the organization for 19 and a half years. Not always in that position. They weren't quite sure what to do with me for a very long time, but have had the pleasure of being in this role and working with this team since 2016, the capacity that I'm in. And it has filled my life with purpose and significance. It has been truly a blessing for me. So I look forward to sharing. It's always fun to talk about what we do as an organization and respond to questions. So thank you for the opportunity.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Lisa Lusk. I'm the Director of Programs and Operations. I've been with 360 Communities for almost 18 years in a variety of roles like Jeff, but in my current position for the last 7. So yeah, excited to meet you all and have the opportunity to talk about the org, but also the work that we're doing together here at Scott County.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ari LaValle. I'm our Children and Youth Services Manager at 360 Communities. I have been with the organization for almost 13 years, held a few different positions, but have always really been in the kids and families and school space. You all.
Perfect. So just to give you some context and orientation of where we're headed. So we'll start at a high level. We're going to move fairly quickly through it. And then we'll drill down a little bit more from that high level of an overview of the organization into more specifically our programs and services that we have. Lisa will handle that. And then we'll drill down into the Cultural Navigator, which is where your funding connects to. And then we'll swoop back into up a little bit higher to just talk about some of the strategic initiatives and things that we have going and have been working on. We'll have plenty of time for questions, so take us in whatever direction you'd like us to take us in. If we're moving too fast on something, we want to go back, please let us know. I particularly can talk for a really long time, so don't corral me. So this is us, 360 Communities. Here's our mission. 360 Communities deliver safety and stability that improves lives. We've been around for over 50 years. Primarily in Dakota County, off and on in Scott County, and now in Scott and Carver County with some programming as well. We have 3 really large competency areas, I will say, that we focus on. They will describe them a bit in silos, but they always overlap. And it's around domestic and sexual violence, supporting survivors and victims of domestic and sexual violence. It's about student success, So think early childhood and K through 12, helping those kiddos graduate on time. And that's really about focusing on stabilizing the family while we support those students. And then there's also a whole host of community resource type programs. Think food shelves, financial assistance, homelessness prevention, wide variety of things in that space. We have 2 resource centers as well. But this just gives you a snapshot of the org. So we're about a $10.5 million budget. We serve over 26,000 people a year across our programs. We have over 800 volunteers. Volunteering was very important to us. That's how we started as an organization. We were volunteers for a couple of years before we became a 501c3. We have a wonderful board, currently 17 board members. We can be up to 21. We have about 100 staff, and you can see some of the diversity mix there, both with our working staff as well as with the people we serve. The largest populations that we're serving are Hispanic, Latino, Caucasian, Black, African American, and then a whole host of others as well. If you cut across our programs and think kind of horizontally, a good way to think about it is we intervene and we stabilize families and individuals. We support them in various ways with goal planning and advocacy. And then we also work to break cycles and prevent. So we're working across generations as much as possible. We're trying to focus on the household, if at all possible, because we know that family unit and that environment is super critical. That's good. We can come back to that. That just gives you an idea of the breadth of the org. So diving down a little bit more specifically into the outcomes and the programs and services.
Just pass it. Okay. We got a little handout for you. So I'm going to talk more about the programs that we have that sit in those 3 different impact areas, and then just share a few outcomes with you from our last fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs October 1st through September 30th. So this data is from October 1, 24 through September 30 of 25. And what Jeff's handing out it's our whole impact report. So I just pulled a few pieces, but just for you to have something you're interested in to look at further after we're done. So when we think about those 3 impact areas, there are specific programs and services that sit underneath each of those. So in that violence prevention and intervention space, we have our Lewis House Shelter, which is our shelter for victim survivors fleeing domestic and sexual violence. Serves any gender, adults, as well as their children. Jeff's going to talk a little bit more about, that's one of our strategic goals that we're working on. We serve about 250 individuals per year through that program, and about half of those are kids. We also have a community advocacy program. So we have a team of community advocates that you can think of it as kind of mobile advocacy. Some of them co-locate in police departments, but it's really about meeting people where they're at, who need support and services around domestic and sexual violence, but who don't need to live in shelter, or maybe at that time they don't need to live in shelter. So we serve a couple thousand people through that program. We also have a sexual assault services program. So we have one advocate who's very specifically trained to support victim survivors of sexual violence. All of our staff are cross-trained because oftentimes domestic and sexual violence can go hand in hand. And then we also have a community education program. So we have one staff who's out in middle schools and high schools doing community education around safe and healthy relationships, and then just presenting to, honestly, whatever community group will have us to raise awareness about domestic and sexual violence. Our community resources space, we have a network of 5 food shelves. So we have a location in Birdsville and in Rosemont that we consider our locations that we run and operate with staff. And then we partner with 3 faith communities who have food shelves, 2 of them in a faith community. One is located within the Farmington School District, but volunteer-led with support from 360 communities. So we serve about 19,000 people a year through the food shelves and distribute about 3 million pounds of food. Last year, that's probably our biggest access point to the organization, but trying to think about, as people come to the food shelf, how do we introduce them to what else we have as an organization? Housing intervention and support service, our eviction court clinic program that we run through a contract with Dakota County. So we have a team of housing support workers who are present during eviction court on Zoom. They're meeting with folks to screen them for various financial assistance programs that might help prevent the eviction. And then they're providing about 30 days of ongoing case management after they meet people in court. And then we're also one of the FHPAP prevention providers for Dakota County. And right now, that funding is specifically linked to referrals coming from that eviction court clinic team. As they're meeting people in court, they're screening, and if they may qualify for FHPAP, then they're getting connected to the staff person who does that work. And then school success is the third area. So Partners for Success is our program where we partner with 5 districts, school districts. We have staff co-located in 22 schools across Dakota County. Their work is really about meeting and identifying needs of kids and families in those schools, but really focused on what's going on outside of the school day that's impacting kids' success in school. And so there's a lot of work with the whole family, really taking that holistic look at what's going on to help stabilize, connect to resources, as well as understand how those kids are doing in school. So work around attendance, homework completion, parent communication with school, really being that trusted bridge between home and school. Housing for Success is a newer program. We're in our 3rd year. That's actually funded through the county, but for LHPA dollars. So working with McKinney-Vento families, who we've kind of narrowed that focus at the pre-K through 12 level for kids and families who qualify for McKinney-Vento, but who are doubled up or self-paying in hotel, since there's not as many resources for people who don't qualify as HUD homeless. So we receive referrals from all the school districts in Dakota County, as well as our school-based staff. And if people qualify for that program, they're assigned a housing navigator that's really helping them to overcome barriers to them finding stable housing. We have a nice pot of financial assistance that we can help with deposit, first month's rent, and alleviating some of those barriers. Scott County FRC kind of sits in the school success bucket. Ian, our cultural navigator, reports to Ari. So that's newer work for us. And Ari's going to talk more about what that's looked like. And then we're the child care aware provider for Dakota, Scott, and Carver counties. Scott and Carver came on to 360 about 2 years ago, I believe. And so that work is about kind of twofold. One is the parent aware program, so supporting licensed family child care providers and centers who opt into that program to help to continue to support the quality of care that they're providing. It's the 4-star rating system that our coaches are walking alongside people as they're navigating. And then there's the Wayfinder portion of the program, which is really about increasing the number of childcares that are available in the community. So they're working with people who are interested in becoming family childcare providers who maybe want to open a center and offering technical assistance if there are aspects of kind of the business part of running a childcare that people are struggling with. So, yeah, and then you can read the outcomes that are there. All right, Ari.
All right, so like Lisa said, we have our contract with Scott County to provide cultural navigation services. So we have Ayan, who is supporting East African families. She's fluent in Somali and Swahili. She's been with us since March 2025 is when she has started with the FRCs and has been with us ever since. So she's 20 hours a week and she splits her time between the Shakopee FRC and the Savage Library location. So she staffs those locations, supporting families, people who are coming into the FRCs, bridging culture, helping with language, access, referrals, application assistance, so supporting families in that way. So a little bit about some of the outcomes in community engagement and what the work has looked like over the last year or so. So we do have some data. Ayan inputs her data into the Scott County system. And our understanding is that that cultural navigator team, the data is as a whole. So we don't have Ayan specific data and some of that individualized work. But we do have some data to share in terms of kind of impact and families being served. So in 2025, approximately 67 distinct households per month received service navigation support provided by the Cultural Navigator team. So Ayanna is a part of that team. She's one of 4. Of these households, 19.3% identified as African American or Black, and the majority of those households indicated Somali as a primary. So she is a part of providing that support. There's all sorts of needs in the community, and people can access a wide range of services. The highest needs that rose to the top for this last year was healthcare and health insurance, access to financial assistance programs, and housing navigation as well. ION has also been really involved in the FRC events that have happened over the last year and a half. So we do have some pictures on the slides from those events. We tabled at the Strong Families Fair, Resource Fair about a year ago. Ayanna and I were also a part of the back to school event, so distributing school supplies, backpacks, getting people connected to resources there. And then I believe there's also one from a WIC outreach event too. So very integrated and part of that team. And really that trust and relationship building with the Somali community. So she has shared with me over the year that she's built relationships with families, families from the Somali community, and they may seek her out. They may go to the Savage Library specifically if they know that she's working there to continue that support and continue those access to services. And then engagement too with attending events, hearing about different needs and how to bridge that. So that is great to hear. And then in terms of a budget update, so spending is on track in terms of the contract. The county funds don't cover the full cost of the contract, so we do have Fairview as a contributor, so that has been a nice contribution as well to support this work. One small staffing update, I will be going on leave here starting in May, so we may have some underspending there that happens while she's out, but we are looking at some possible staffing coverages. Like Lisa mentioned, we have a school-based program, so we have family support workers that work school year only, and so once their school year is done, I'll be exploring if there's any of those staff that would like to help cover that person.
Well, I just want to talk about, again, some initiatives that we've got going on to advance the mission, the broader 360 communities. We're a growing organization. All of our services are free. We don't sell widgets. And so we've been very intentional about, over the last probably decade in particular, paying attention to sustainability with the growth. So we're really careful about what we're taking on to ensure that there is also a path to sustainability once you get that startup happening. And what we also have noticed is that been operating kind of under the idea that growth for us hasn't tended to be linear. It tends to be a step change that happens. And so we put a lot of time into the other kind of infrastructure as an organization. And so you can see just some symbols up there. Comp and benefits. We've been really intentional. We're about 2 years into a 5-year comp and benefits strategy where our staff are key. Retaining that expertise is key. And we as nonprofits don't have salaries that compare to the for-profit world, right? And so we're doing what we can to both improve the benefits that we have available for people and as a large organization, push all of our staff get all of our staff into that wage rate that's in the higher 65 percentile tier at a minimum. So we're on our way with that. The diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work has been super important for us. We started that work 12 years ago and have continued to be on that path. And we believe that is important because as you look, you know this, look at the demographics and how things are changing and projected to change. We're growing as a more diverse set of communities. We know that just makes business sense. You've got to understand your customer in addition to the moral reasons. You've got to understand your customer. And the more we can have self-awareness as an organization within our staff and the ability then to develop skills that allow us to work more effectively to build relationships with people who maybe don't see the world like we each uniquely see it differently. So our skill sets that we have to build are different from even the three of us. And then as we look at the internal culture of the organization, how are we functioning? Or how are the policies set up? What are the trainings like? How are our meetings being run? All of those things are really key and important. This has really, I think, put us in a leadership space. And I know it's been under attack the last few years, especially in various ways. It is part of our infrastructure. We think of it just like HR. It's baked into who we are. And so that's been super critical for us and continues to be. That other little symbol, finance, IT systems, virtually all of our platforms that we're operating off of have been updated in the last 8 years, I'll say, from our client tracking system to our volunteer management system, to our accounting systems, to our donor database systems. All those things are within the last 8 years are new. And so they're solid. And what we're discovering is there's absolutely value to be had as you start to cross those information streams differently. And so that's been a real exciting space that has gained us some efficiencies and it's been really good. The two up in the upper right, I'll start with Partners for Success. Lisa touched on that a little bit. That is a really unique program that we have. When we've had 2 studies done by the University of Minnesota done on it, it's been around since the early 90s. It was actually created out of a need in a school district where the superintendent who came to us and started partnering, recognizing that students were having trouble in class, and it wasn't something that the educators could support. It was actually happening outside of the classroom, and so got us engaged, developed this program. A couple of studies done by the University of Minnesota to show the return on investment there. When they tried to find comparison programs, they found one that was similar enough to compare to out in Seattle, and they flew us out there. We were a little bit farther ahead. It was kind of cool. But that program in particular does really good work. It's in jeopardy. The funding model has been a partnership between us fundraising and school districts paying for part of it. School districts are under so much pressure they can't continue to afford that. And so we know there is a business model that needs to shift there, and we're actively trying to figure out what is that maybe third leg to the funding stool that can keep that going. School districts want it, just can't afford it. So that's an interesting challenge. That is a strategy of ours that we're moving forward with. The Lewis House, super exciting. And if anybody was listening to Minnesota Public Radio this morning, you maybe heard one of our staff on there talking a little bit about that in the connection. You have Southern Valley Alliance here working with victims of domestic and sexual violence in Dakota County. We're the only provider there that does emergency shelter, outreach advocacy, and awareness building in the community for victims of domestic and sexual violence. This is a campaign to construct a new shelter. And we just went public with it at our luncheon on the 10th of this month. Super exciting to see the momentum picking up. We are about a year ahead of schedule with that project. It's making our pits sweat in a good way. We think we're going to break ground in October with construction finishing in 2027 so that we can move out of our existing shelter into that new one by the end of 2027. Lot of just different things we're doing in the design of this facility. We have been listening to survivors for 10 years with intention to help them inform what this looks like, as well as our advocates, as well as looking at national best practices. So we are super excited for this to start to really gain some traction and come to reality, which will include, in addition to the shelter, a survivor support center we currently do not have to be able to serve people on an outreach basis in a whole different ways. Super excited about that. Happy to share more about if anybody's interested in learning more. Many Hands is making this happen. We've got Rotary clubs that are collaborating together. We've got Lions clubs that are collaborating together. We were selected as the Housing First Minnesota project for 26-27. So there's going to be all sorts of in-kind suppliers, services coming on board. We've got some major suppliers of our own that are getting engaged, in concrete, lighting, asphalt, those kind of things. So that's a quick pass through. Questions in any direction, the organization.
Thanks for being here and being involved in our FRCs. And I know we've talked about other possible partnerships and talk about how you look at growth that way, because geography isn't everything, but, you've kind of concentrated more in Dakota County. I see you've had, just looking at your financials and things, some great success and increased fundraising over the last year or two, that shows up right in the numbers. If your organization does more, this way, how will that look? How will that change your fundraising, recruitment,
Yeah.
You must be thinking about that.
Yes, and there's a lot of different directions I could run with that. So if there's a specific direction you want me to go, stop me and let's drill down, but I'll give you kind of just the.
Yeah, big picture.
Yeah, big picture. So you're absolutely right. We as an organization, our mission inherently is baked in so that we can go, what I say, wide versus kind of emergency services, basic need stuff, or deep, which is really about identifying what's the underlying cause for somebody that maybe needs food, for instance, and how do you address that with costs. That's actually the much harder thing to fund and the harder thing to build capacity around. So it is constantly a struggle for us to set the boundaries on resources coming into the organization. How are we going to allocate those? We would love to build more capacity in that space. It's harder to do. So that's kind of one just framework. For us, from a just geographical growth standpoint, if we were going to grow geographically, we've always kind of looked at, we're not a Twin Cities organization. Poverty is different in the suburbs and the needs are different. So we always imagined growth in that particular aspect would most likely be Western, Scott, Carver. We also, in our DNA, is about partnering. And so we want to make very sure that we are staying in our lane and not duplicating where it doesn't make sense to duplicate. And so, especially in Scott County, we've had a number of conversations. You have some awesome providers here of services. I mean, Southern Valley Alliance is one of those. We want to be really careful about if we do start to grow somehow this direction, that we're not doing that in a vacuum, and that we're also partnering well and coming alongside or getting behind where we should be versus just jumping out in front. So that is challenging, but something we are absolutely committed to paying attention to, which involves us being really intentional about understanding. Talked about self-awareness from a diversity, equity, inclusion standpoint. There's also, we spend a lot of time having self-awareness about what's really in our wheelhouse, what is our competency areas, and what is a noble cause. We get pulled into many noble causes that we have to go, that yes, that's something that should be addressed. That's not us, but here's maybe how we can support that, or here's a place you can go to help meet that. Housing is an interesting one. We were being asked to lead a homeless shelter, so different from a shelter for domestic and sexual violence victims. This was take on a homeless shelter. That's really not our sweet spot. It is a different animal. However, the space of preventing homelessness and stabilizing housing for people is a competency that we have, but it shows up different. So Lisa talked about our Housing for Success program. That was birthed out of that. We go, you know what? We have really strong relationships with school. We stabilize families really well in that environment. We know that there are families that are technically homeless in the school districts. How might we get upstream and do some prevention in that space? And then working with the county, that's where Housing for Success popped up. Another good one is the eviction courts, where we're inserted into that system and helping families prevent eviction and helping to keep the landlords whole, in many of those circumstances. So maybe a longer-winded answer.
No,
it's a delicate balance that especially lately. We go through a strategic planning cycle, coming up on it again in May, with both our leaders and the board. And that some aspect of that is always in play, trying to make sure we're understanding what does growth look like for us? Because it doesn't just mean, for a nonprofit, our philosophy, bigger isn't better necessarily, very different. It's impact. What's the difference you're making? Where are you making that for? And how much is that costing you? Is it sustainable? So, good question, I wish I had.
Yeah, no, I like that, and I'll tell you what resonated with me a lot is, the wide and deep, because obviously we need emergency and crisis services. We need those all
We
over.
both, yeah.
We have, you do some of that, other agencies do some of that, but we really want to change outcomes too. But we understand you can't change outcomes if, people are homeless and hungry and violent or whatever it is. So really interested as maybe we talk about more growth opportunities here and figuring out the partnership, not with just Scott County, but the other nonprofits here.
Yeah.
And really evaluating how that work can be a little more seamless, whether it's emergency and handoffs to that bigger, longer term work or whatever. So
I would
way beyond today, but I
Right.
obviously been thinking about that.
And I would plant the seed that there is absolutely something to look at in our Partners for Success program, that staff that we have there, family support workers, has a whole lot of applicable. They're doing good long-term. They're doing both kind of basic needs stuff, but they're also doing a lot of really good long-term work. That particular program knows the school system. You can take some of those core components and learn a different system. It's the health system. And you could have a family support worker sitting in a health system. You could have a family support worker sitting in a resource center, for instance, in a community-based system. So there's some really powerful stuff there that is part of the nut we're trying to crack.
Couple questions. This 360 feels like an organization that I've heard so much about, never seen, first time meeting. It's one of these, you always hear about it. You mentioned talking about breaking or changing generational trends, trajectories. How do you do that? If you were to grab two tools that you have, how do you do that? That's a big deal. I think that's kind of the under part versus this part. How do you do that? Because we are talking about, like, as a county, we're all about open transformation. Like, I don't want to go into it again, but I've heard stories from some of our higher ups that when they were lower, they were going out to arrest Mr. Johnson for Trump and disorderly.
Yeah.
And now they arose to these different higher levels, and now they're flying staff going out and arresting Mr. Johnson Jr. for what? Trump and disorderly, being his wife. So like, how do we break those chains? Government typically isn't great at that. Now, we do good work, but so it's all about finding who are the experts in the space that have done this, have track records to break those generation. I call it generation sin, call it whatever you want. So we're not seeing them yet, right? Work that's getting done and producing results at the other end of the conveyor belt. Sounds like that's sort of at the heart of what you try to do. Sort of also the teach to fish or give a fish kind of go hand in hand. How do you do that?
Yep.
If you do that, I don't know.
You don't know. Then Lisa, we were both kind of chomping at it. And I'll go, just let me set the context of this. And I hope what you're hearing about us is good stuff. But let us know either way, because that's how we grow. But I want to bring, so part of I think the cue up is, at least for me, part of our origin story. So we try very hard not to be transactional. We are relational. At our origin, we had volunteers that literally set up a phone line that you would spell out if alone, and the person would dial that, get a volunteer that had a list of resources and could link people, but there were a lot of resources missing. They were hearing a lot of issues and challenges that we didn't have resources to. Here's the magic. They wouldn't just shut them off. They would invite that person into being part of the solution. Help us figure out together how to make that happen. And the magic that I see behind that is people were building bridges across relationships that they normally wouldn't do. And they saw the person as having the power and the potential to solve their own issue. And so that is inherent in our DNA, how we view the people around us. And so that's part of the answer to the multi-generational.
I think if I think about, and I don't know that I call it tools, but two ways that we really try to address that breaking of cycles, and it's a really hard thing to measure, right? Because I mean, we don't necessarily know what happens to people 10 years after we've served them, but I think the community education aspect of our violence prevention and intervention work is all about connecting with youth to help them really start to understand what is a healthy relationship, what isn't a healthy relationship, trying to hold some of those thoughts and that thinking at that middle school and high school age. And then the other one I would say is really connected to the Partners for Success school-based program, really focused on helping kids to meet those benchmark marks in school and get kids to a point of graduating from high school. Because for a lot of the kids and families we're working with, that not their parents haven't necessarily graduated. And we know the research that if you can get kids to high school graduation, the outcomes are better for them long term, and there's a higher chance that those cycles won't repeat. But we don't have longitudinal data or studies to track those things. But that prevention work within violence prevention and then the school-based work are the two things that really stand out to me as ways that we're trying to really do that.
And I would add that the focus is as much as possible on the household. So we may be faced with an individual that's seeking some help. What we're trying to do is work through that relationship to understand what's the household dynamic so that we can have a sense for what's the unit there. And having a breadth of programs can be really, really valuable. We found like when families come to the shelter, for instance, the Lewis House shelter, half of the people staying at that shelter are kids. And so there are times where we can not only work with the family at that shelter, but if we're lucky enough to have staff in the schools through our Partners for Success school-based work that have those kids, we can also support the kids in that aspect as well. And so that there again, you're kind of wrapping services differently around a household unit in a couple generations.
Some of those are super hard to measure because, you might be doing work now and you never see the fruits of in some families, which is great. But it seems like also for a group like yours, like nonprofits can fundraise and be successful, but success does breed success. So I know there's nonprofits out there that do good and have fundraised and wow, marketing is amazing, but they kind of fizzle because it's not sustainable. Where it feels like if you're, as was mentioned, you're doing something right. There's some level of success that. And again, I don't know you guys, this isn't but you must be doing something right to be able to manage that fundraising. You want to be part of things that are successful and to have that track record, which is super interesting because now my next question is, and half of the heads in this table are going to turn at me and like laser eye me. This is not meant to be a grenade, more of a flashbang. Nothing blows up. Nothing blows up. Nothing blows up. It's just like a whoa, whoa, whoa.
He makes it always sound worse than it is.
Yeah, always.
Okay.
Are we nothing he says?
So my question is, so we really, what you see is what you get. We're transparent, like you mentioned the word partner, like we're really trying to find partners that we can work with. Partnership is a two-way street. Like we have open, hey, this is going well. This isn't going well. Both ways, right? This isn't that talk. But we have this FRC, which I'm bullish. That's kind of starting to. There was some RFP, I believe. I haven't heard much about it, so I'm guessing it bombed. I'm guessing you probably see that's the flashback part.
And I'll just say we spent a lot of time evaluating that.
So you were on one of the.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm sure there were other. So this
I
is
think
one of
this
those.
thing's in play right now.
Is it in play? We don't need
I
to.
mean, there's discussion.
I'm
right?
bullish. I'm
There's
bullish.
discussions.
I'm bullish. So when I saw that line, I'm like, well, let's get to this. Oh, it's a handoff. They're leaving a little spoiler, but it's gonna be a handoff. I gotta wait for the handoff. And it was Ultra Navigators. Like, I feel like this thing, this FRC thing, the longer we hold it, flashback again, the longer the government even holds it, just kind of settles into our government-y stuff. No offense, you know, I'm still bullish mostly. But as time goes on and it doesn't just kind of exist, so the question is, as an outsider into Scott County, I would love to know either here or later, whatever. Yeah, I would have done this, this, or this. This would have been attractive. This is what we need to, I don't know who responded, who didn't respond, whatever. Like, how do we get this thing airborne? Feels like it's like the Wright brothers, which is awesome. We got flight. We got flight out of the Wright brothers. It's awesome.
He's not speaking on behalf of.
Wait. Suzanne, come on.
So we have to
We need to move
call
on.
time here.
She's gonna leave the flashbang there. And now we're into the hug.
I particularly love this kind of conversation, so I am absolutely willing to grab a coffee, grab a lunch.
Have him go out with coffee with you.
I might come.
Maybe have some of our people there, so if you're.
Please. Love that.
We've
Yes.
got an open document right now, that's part of it, right?
Right.
So we really shouldn't talk
Right,
about that
right.
until all of that is
It's a
dealt with.
legally open document.
Yeah. And so that's why, but again, partnership like this, I love. I wasn't born in Minnesota, so I don't mind a little, whatever. Moved here when I was like 4.
Can I
so-
thank you for coming?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. I feel like
There's obviously more conversation to come.
And the
so
cultural
thank
and
you.
navigator thing is in here because that's our current contract.
Yeah. And you guys do that. I feel like by the time you started playing the playoff.
It is, yeah. They're walking us off stage as we're both talking.
Before the.
We also have a long history with Dakota County.
Right,
Or the
right,
Scott County
right.
of wrestling with those things.
Yeah, good.
And being able to say
Yes.
no, because here's
Yeah.
why. So we love those kind of conversations because in the end, you get what's happening right now, a super strong, vulnerable trans population
Yes.
that creates things like housing for success, eviction support clinic, that kind of stuff.
Well, and I love how you don't want to duplicate things. If you're walking away, we're still talking. But no, that's consolidate, right? Businesses consolidate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Right? Flashbang, no grenades.
Remember, I stopped drinking Diet Coke, I just drank one, so I can't. Already broken one. Just wanted to have another one.
You know what I'm substituting? Club soda wine.
Yeah.
Tastes like a pop.
Yeah, no, I know. I like that too. I just think it's poison. It's a long day today.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Barb, was that look?
Yes, we're gonna start with introductions, so if Cory can get back
Oh, yeah.
to the table.
Yep.
We'll start up here in the far right this time. Michael,
You go first.
we're gonna start with you and go this way.
Okay, Michael Burke from Engagement.
Hi.
David Lund, Scott County.
Davis, physical development.
Brittany Lynn, Aging Disability Services. Great, this contract case management. I'm Tracy Cervenka from administration. I'm Cindy Manave and I'm the deputy clerk to the board.
Dave Beard, County Commissioner.
Don Ulrich, Scott County Commissioner.
Leslie Vermillion, the administrator.
I'm Wolf, Commissioner, timekeeper.
Barb Blackman-Brecky, Scott County Commissioner.
Cody Brennan.
Lloyd Urbach, resident.
Also the Human Services Director.
Increasing transformation and vice services.
Hi, my name is Nan Helene. I'm the case management administrator at Pinnacle. And my name is Jill Taylor and I'm the CEO for Pinnacle Services.
My name is Al Burden. I'm the Scott County Supervisor at Pinnacle.
All right, you want us just to start?
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good, very good. Okay, well, I will start just by touching on a little bit of who we are as an organization. Pinnacle's been providing contracted case management in Scott County since 2016. We also provide the service in Hennepin, Wright, Ramsey, Dakota, and Washington County primarily. We are a CFSS consultation services provider, as well as a 245D licensed provider for community residential services and independence programs like individualized home supports. What happened here? Okay, there he goes. We serve approximately 6,500 individuals across those programs. And in 2025, we've had quite a busy year. We, in our community residential services program, revitalized a number of our homes by completing several large home improvement projects. That included like changing flooring out, painting, landscape revision, all of those things that you would do as a homeowner to ensure that your house stays comfortable and that the look stays current, both inside and out and blends with our neighborhoods. We expanded the rollout of a software system in our CRS program as well, and that resulted in improved documentation quality across both the residential program and the independence program. So that quality as well as consistency across those programs was captured by that. We implemented a new employee training platform as well, which provided us more control over the content, the editing, the ability to create and post training and make that immediately accessible to our employee group. We led employee engagement activities as well. We really try to promote volunteerism and contributing to the larger community with our employees. Employees are provided 10 hours of paid time away from work to volunteer in the community. And the couple of photos here, the first one is a group who packed Narcan overdose rescue kits for the Steve Rumler Hope Network. And on one occasion, they packed so many kits that they ran out of supplies before the shift was done. Is proud that had never happened before. The second group is of individuals who joined Union Gospel Mission, their Thanksgiving meal distribution event. And volunteers helped hand out meal kits to families in need. We also did some volunteering in response to social justice issues. In response to the ICE insurgents earlier this year, one of our leaders organized a food drive, and we were able to provide groceries and supplies to the local community, and ultimately served over 800 families. And we also did some just for fun things. We had a food truck come to our organization to host a employee appreciation event, and then separately dedicate time throughout the year for employees to get together for lunch, connection. We sometimes have crafts and activities for people to do just to kind of connect. And then we also extend our employee engagement efforts towards mentorship. And I'll hand that off to Hanat to talk about our mentorship program.
Yeah, I just want to highlight our mentorship program that we started in 2025. Case management is hard work, and your staff in particular can struggle to find their footing even after they go through our more formal and structured 8-week training program. Rather than letting those employees fall through the cracks, we created a structure where they are paired with a more experienced case manager on our team, someone who can offer real guidance from firsthand experience. The response has been really positive, that staff feel more supported, and we see that translates into better retention as well. It costs far more to replace an employee than it does to invest in helping them succeed. And more importantly, continuity matters for our clients. When we keep good people, our clients benefit from that. This is something we plan to expand in 2026, and we see it as a long-term part of how we want to develop and support our workforce. In addition to developing our team, we spent a significant part of 2025 investing in technology. Late last year, we transitioned to a new case management platform called PlanStreet, moving away from our previous platform, CareDirector. This was a significant operational lift. We had to customize the system to fit our specific needs, migrate sensitive client data securely, and train our entire case management team, all while making sure our clients experience no disruption in service. It took most of the year, but we got it done. What PlanStreet gives us is better visibility for operations. We can track case manager tasks more effectively, run more detailed reports, and monitor compliance in a way we simply couldn't before. This means we can catch issues earlier, respond faster, and have stronger accountability for how we are using resources. This was a big investment of time and energy, but it's made our organization more efficient and accountable. And then lastly, I want to touch on our CFSS consultation services that we launched in October of 2024. As a newer service in the broader landscape, we were going into that knowing that we would have to build a foundation ourselves, developing the team structure, setting clear staff expectations, and establishing compliance standards essentially from the ground up. What helped us navigate those early challenges was the depth of experience we already had as a case management agency. Our background gave us a head start. We already understood how to collaborate with Cameron, with DHS, and most importantly with clients. We were able to draw from compliance frameworks that have already existed in our agency and apply them to this new service. And the growth has been pretty remarkable. In a relatively short period of time, we have built a large team of CFSS consultants and are now proudly serving over 2,000 clients. There's a real need in our community for the service. CFSS consultation helps people navigate self-directed care and supports independence. It also reduces the strain in the broader system. And by offering it, we're able to reach people we simply couldn't reach before and expand our footprint and deepen our commitment to the community. I'll now pass it to my colleague who will share some of the outcomes and successes that came out of this work.
All right, so let's talk about some outcomes and successes that we've achieved in 2025. So we had some positive, plenty of positive stakeholder feedback. On the left-hand side in the green box there was talking about some comments that we had after a survey that was sent out. I'll just hit on a couple of those highlights as well. Being a great part of the person's life, becoming a better independent person. There was some actual CMs who were called out, Emily and Mackenzie on our team. They were cited a couple times as well. There were great feedback of they responded timely to the manners, providing resources as well. And they're just also grateful for the options that we've explained to them regarding what kind of services that they can receive. There's some client experiences. I do want to touch on a few of those as well. So just some examples of person-centered goals that our individuals look to achieve, and we kind of want to highlight those as well. One situation, there was a minor on our CDCS program that is the client-driven program that they can choose certain options and services that they want, so it's more client-driven. The case manager that I talked with, there was a lot of challenges with the financial management services of the worker and the agency, and they had cited that it was a couple months without staff getting paid, and there was a lot of confusion with the plan. And this case manager, they came in, they helped clean this mess up, and the family has been so appreciative of our help with that situation, because the client had some lofty goals that they wanted to accomplish. And with this program and the services and our case manager direction, they're able to achieve some of that. Another situation I want to share with you is we had a CM that started with a client in 2023, 2024. There was a lot of housing instability going on with this situation. And they were able to work with the client, get them moved into a townhome. The client had some seizures, and the family was really concerned about leaving this individual home alone. And because of a result, dad was not able to go out and get an outside job. And with our CM coming in, they talked about CDCS, that client-driven option. Discuss the process, they got staffing stabilized, and the main goal was that dad was able to provide that care that this client needed and help achieve some goals that the person had. There was also an elderly client that we supported as well. They had a lot of turnover with their case manager. The home itself, it was so cluttered, and the client was unsure of working with us, and finally took them a while to build rapport with one of our case managers and able to get in services to help get that declutterized so that when the city or the county came to inspect the home, it would pass that inspection. Another one I want to talk about was there was recently somebody who turned 18 and the dad was the only parent. Mom had passed away previously, and there was a lot of anxiety that the dad had with potentially moving this client into their own home. And the case manager worked very hard with dad. They worked a long time to find the right placement for this individual. And we wanted dad to feel comfortable with where that placement would be happening for that 18-year-old. So, and then finally as well, there was a client that we had worked with. She had not left her home in 2 years, and this case manager worked very hard with her of getting transportation in place, able to help advocate for some mobility items that she could go out and actually get into the community, and got a vehicle for this individual, and success. They were able to go to a Minnesota Wild game. It was a great time. They were so happy and thrilled about this experience. So, and that just kind of some stories to help point out what our case managers are doing at Pinnacle. So, and then the last point on this as well is a client quality assurance review as well. So we have some implemented policies and procedures of quick audits. We have a training and development team at Pinnacle, and they also help audit our cases and make sure that everything is looking good and we are compliant with DHS and county standards as well. We just want to make sure that we're in good standing with those. So, and then our final thing with this as well is our case managers are aware of our DHS audit that is happening in January of 2027. So we've had conversations in 2025 already of like, hey, this is on the horizon. We want to make sure that we're doing a good job, and we want to make sure that we're in good standing with the county. All right. How our partnership and funding have contributed to our shared objectives. So want to highlight with that. So as a supervisor, I have 2 lead staff or captains. They are in regular contact with our liaison, Rachel. She's sitting right here as well. And Rachel has been so instrumental in our relationship with Scott County. She has heard our concerns. She's answered our consults. She's been open to feedback in order to streamline and implement some processes so that we are able to support our individuals. We have definitely given her some ideas of things that we have worked with other counties on with some processes. She has heard them, and she has also implemented some of them as well. A huge one was getting SharePoint access through Scott County, and was able to help our case managers get the information more timely. And when there's been updates, they have this site that they can access to get the information that they need for their individuals. Okay. Another thing with our strong partnership with Scott County as well is we've received more responsibility. We have gotten more independence with authorizing services due to that trust that we have built. This allows our case managers to work faster while we remain in compliance with DHS, county, and then also trying to implement those person-centered goals that they have.
Moving on to our financial summary there. Our budget is based on the reimbursement rates set by waiver case management, case aid and paraprofessional services, and by contract for non-waiver cases. We serve approximately 350 individuals in Scott County, and in 2025 offered approximately 14,000 service hours. The team, like Al had mentioned, is made up of case managers and supervisors. Our supervisors are called captains and work directly with our case management team. One of the nice things about our captains is that they typically are promotions from within our organization. So they've got a wealth of experience as case managers then to provide some mentorship and some coaching to our case managers. And then of course, Al supervises our captains, and then Hanan is part of our department structure as well. Thorough documentation is key in this industry, as I know you are all aware. And we are fortunate to have a strong group dedicated to ensuring a high level of documentation integrity, like Al was saying, and preparing for the upcoming audit. We take that very seriously and look to different ways that we can ensure that our documentation not only meets case management standards, but billing standards as well. We regularly review and sample casework to ensure that it meets both of those points. And our CRM, as Hanan was describing, creates an added layer of review over that, which happens in our finance department. So again, that makes sure that our documentation of our case management delivery meets that scope of case management services, but also qualifies for billing. The workflow that's created allows our finance department to see what our case managers are doing in real time versus having to wait for documentation to be completed and then submitted to the department for review. So they can catch anything that would potentially look questionable or might need some additional coaching or support or correction around before it's ever submitted for billing. The system also automatically matches our service agreements with each client, which enforces the rules around authorized services and applying those contract rates, which would flag anything that is outside the scope of case management. And it prevents any potential for overbilling or reduces accidental errors that could resemble fraud. The system also enforces segregation of duties and approval of workflows. So there's a presence of a clear audit trail for everything that runs through our system. The other financial considerations that we look at is the number of training hours our case managers are required to complete each year. Some of those are imposed by DHS, some of those are county requirements, and then our agency has a lot of training that we require our case managers to go through as well. That and the increased complexity of the case manager work itself. Some of the tasks that are required are falling outside the scope of case management, so that is unbillable service and needs to be factored into our financial summary and budgets. And then, of course, the legislative changes, both at the state and the federal level. Those are weighing heavy on our mind and part of all of our in-house meetings, and determinations about what we're going to be doing moving forward and how we might position ourselves. But nonetheless, we are committed to this work. I will often say if everybody leaves the field, then who's going to do the work? So that's just not an option. We just need to figure out how to do it so that everyone or as many people can be happy as we can. So with our commitment to continuing that work, I'll hand it back to Hanan to talk about our plans and priorities for 2026.
Yeah, as we look ahead to 2026, our priorities are centered around three things: investing in our people, staying ahead of change, and advocating for the clients and services we believe in. On the staffing side, our focus in 2026 is retention and continued development. We will be expanding the mentorship program, increasing county-specific training, and creating more team-building opportunities. We know that when staff feel supported and connected, that stability shows up in the quality of care that our clients receive. We're also continuing to invest in technology to strengthen how we monitor and manage compliance. Building on the Plant Street Foundation we established in 2025, we will be expanding our use of dashboards and real-time reporting features to move towards a more centralized utilization of compliance across our organization. We're also working hard to stay ahead of external challenges, particularly around policy changes that could impact our ability to deliver services. Minnesota's new paid leave law is one example. As leave usage increases across our workforce, we're proactively hiring to make sure our staffing levels stay strong and our clients never experience a disruption in service. We're not waiting for the challenges to arrive. We're trying to prepare for them now. And finally, we're taking an active role in advocating for case management services at the legislative level. We're collaborating with MSSA and MAXA on legislation that directly impacts contracted case management. And we have retained lobbyists to make sure our voice is at the table amid the ongoing policy changes that are shaping this field. I believe case management is essential, and we are committed to protecting it for our clients, for our community, and then also for our county partnerships as well. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have to leave. I just want to say thank you. I know that we're troubled too with some of the efforts to get rid of contracted case management. A lot of us in this room think it's good to have options and that we are good partners. But yeah, there will be change in all long-term services and sports for the next couple of years. So thanks for staying in this arena. Appreciate it. Sorry, I gotta go get on a different meeting.
Any more questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for doing.
I appreciate what you were talking about documentation. We both have stickers.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I forget it.
Another front line.
Yeah, our employees can anticipate what our first response is going to be. Thank you. I don't see anyone.
They're in the.
Service.
I gotta roll, sorry.
What, are you still rolling?
What?
You're rolling?
I gotta go.
They're in the, Tracy, they're in the break room.
What?
It's not, I got 2:30, it's my dentist.
And you were the one that talked so much.
Well, that was, I had,
All these flashbacks, it was kind of exploding.
No grenades. Grenades.
There's a flashback, you were, this is the one that almost break your ears.
I know.
You said plus 210. There you go.
Well, where are they? They're out there? Oh, Lonnie's got them. Yeah. Welcome. Welcome.
Presentation on
I have to leave early. I am not walking out on you.
okay. Oh, thank you.
All right, Jake, start us off. Introductions.
Introductions. All right, we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves. I will start. I'm Jake Grusing, Transformation Enterprise Services Director. Thank you for being here.
Hi, I'm Katie Malika. I'm Quality Improvement for Scott County.
Hi, Suzanne Arnson, Deputy Health and Human Services Director.
Hi, good afternoon, Barb Dahl, Health and Human Services Director.
Jody Brennan, Scott County Commissioner.
I'm also Scott County Commissioner.
Lindsay Vermillion, Administration.
John Ulrich, Commissioner.
Dave Beer, Commissioner.
Teresa Shervanka, Administration.
Tanya Ward, Behavioral Health and Housing.
Brad Davis, Director of Michael Bergstrom, Community Safety.
Sue Hoyt with Canvas Health, Program Manager for the Scott County Mentor Services for Child Protection.
My name is Kelsey Yale, I'm the Manager of Global Crisis Services.
And I'm Todd Reuter. I'm our Chief Operating Officer at Campus Health, and I apologize, I have a cold, so I'm masked. My colleague Jay Tyson, who is the Director over the Mobile Crisis Program, also has hurt his back. So we're kind of short on our resources in the organization.
He literally can't walk. It's pretty rushing.
Yeah. So should we, what is the protocol, just to jump in?
Yes.
Jump right
Okay.
in.
Just, yep, direct.
All right. So first, Kelsey will start, and then I'll pick up for the Emergency Social Services Program.
Just to remind you, the purpose of mobile mental health crisis response is really to provide that immediate face-to-face and short-term intensive services. So I like to think of it as kind of the community's EAP program, or, I don't know if y'all have had the employee assistance, that short-term related to one conflict, one issue, usually. And so we follow them for 2 to 6 weeks, providing stabilization services to cope with immediate stressors. It's a lot of service connection, things like that. Inside also just reminding of what the contract amount is. Here's all of our data on one slide compared with 2024. You can see our calls went down slightly. Our distinct callers also went down about 40 callers. Our responses in the community also went down. And then this last one is kind of our reasoning why, or our thoughts of what could be causing it, and what kind of mobile crisis teams across the state are talking about. That in 2024, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, or 988, answered 155 calls that they had geolocated to Scott County. And as you can see, that went up by nearly 1,000 calls, just shy of 1,000. 988 did a really, really good job of promoting themselves. It's a really good, easy number. I think it's a really essential service, but it also has, across the state, redirected people away from their mobile crisis teams. One of the things that the state is currently working on, because this is something that's known, we hear it at all of the mobile crisis like leadership meetings, and there's a 988 and mobile crisis quarterly meeting, is how to edit the SAMHSA guidelines for 988 for the Minnesota context. So 988, when it was passed federally, but states already had some things going on. Minnesota already had mobile crisis teams. Most states didn't, or didn't have them in every county. So the 988, the requirement for the 988 call center is not only to answer within a few rings, but it's also to triage over the phone whenever possible. And they kind of are seen to not be doing their job if they transfer more than 3% of their calls. So they are highly motivated to be within their number of calls that they triage. So they treat us like a very rare resource that they can only use in case of an emergency. Because you can see, while the calls went up by 1,000, the calls transferred to MCR went down by 10. And that's something that we've been seeing across all the crisis teams.
Oh, can you go back up? The call answer, that includes the 988 data?
So it's all 988. And that's actually only one 988 call center. So it's very likely higher than that. Because if they don't answer, I think it's 20 seconds. Within 20 seconds, it goes to the next available 988 call center, which could be Illinois, North Dakota, wherever, because they want those calls answered. This is only, or in St. Paul, there's also a 988 center. So we have a partnership with 988 Itasca. They do our after hours phone. So they provide us information, but it doesn't represent the total number of calls. So that's kind of the biggest thing we're working through. Here's the population where we were out to see people, or where they were calling from. Of course, a large proportion of those folks are calling from Shakopee and Prior Lake. Right? Every once in a while, we get calls from folks out of county who either it's a school where the kid is going home with a parent who lives in Scott County, and that's where they're looking for crisis services, or something like that. We have seen the grant funding go up as well from 2024. We're seeing less private insurance in the community, and a slight decrease of how many folks have MA.
So Canvas Health relies upon the grant funding that comes from the Minnesota Department of Human Services and healthcare billing to help offset the total cost of service delivery. That's the value of this slide.
And then our response time, this is between the end of the call and the start of the assessment. So includes drive time and dispatch time. So we're primarily doing less than 2 hours. When they are more than 2 hours, it's usually because someone says like, can you do this in the morning? And we try to be client-centered that way. Like they're calling from work and they say, I have a really long work day and I have to pick up my kids, but I'm free tomorrow at 9. Can I meet with you then? Okay, we try to always triage in the moment. So try to minimize that, but yeah, we also try to lead with what the client is hoping for. Okay. Pass it to you.
Thank you. So moving on from our mobile mental health crisis services to our emergency social services program, Canvas Health for Scott County provides after hours emergency social services starting at 4:30 Monday through Friday, and then continuing on until 8 a.m. the next business day. That provides us a total of about 125 hours a week of service, totaling 6,814 hours annually across nights, weekends, and holidays. This program is really responsible to triage allegations of neglect or maltreatment after the county has closed Monday through Friday, weekends, and holidays, and to find a place of safe placement for the child, as well as reviewing reports of and allegations of maltreatment of adults. So the Maltreatment of Minors Act and the Maltreatment of Adults Act applies to this program and how it operates. The contract cost in 20 and 24 was flat, and it was $141,000 that the county provided to us to operate this program. And in 2006, there was a small increase to about $149,000 to help offset the cost of that 6,000 hours of service. Next slide. So similar to mobile mental health crisis services, the emergency social services program has also seen a slight decrease in call volume into the program. So in 2025, we saw 402 calls come into First Call for Help, is that Itasca County 988 call center. That call center answers the calls, then quickly determines what is the disposition of the call. Was it a wrong number, or is there action that is needed? And then they will transfer that call to an on-call child protection worker who will then take the call and determine what are the next steps. In 2024, there were 441 calls that came in. Those calls resulted in 113 child protection and welfare checks and 53 emergency adult protective services. It's important to note that there are typically multiple calls per case or per situation, and that's why the call volume is so significantly higher. Sometimes there's a wrong number, or some strange call comes in, it gets counted, it's not relevant to the services that we provide. Most often that's not the case. A majority of the reports are received between 4:30 and midnight. They account for 58%, almost 60% of all activity during those after hours time period. And the highest volume, a quarter of calls occur over on weekends, not on weeknights. 73.5% of the child reports are made by mandated reporters. This program is unique in that it often utilizes and provides services are provided by child protection workers who work for the county during the day or a county during the day, and then they're moonlighting and providing services for us at night. So Many members of the team are from Scott County and know the Scott County methodology, preferences, and resources available in the local area. Next slide. Youth ages 13 to 17 were most likely involved in the reports, with children ages 5 to 12 as the next higher group. The most common allegations were neglect and physical abuse. And there are also additional reports that involve sexual abuse, substance use, mental health, and other child welfare concerns. So the child protection worker will often meet law enforcement at the scene and determine what the situation is and what the disposition with that child should be. Next slide. This slide is just depicting that a majority of reports were referred to the county for work the next business day, and that Shakopee, Prior Lake, Jordan, and Savage communities were responsible for a large majority of the calls into the line. What questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was studying that. I was, Savage is known as the happiest place in the county, so. Any questions or comments?
I just had one, I was texting with Barb about it. So do you want private insurance before MA and grant funding? I mean, is that a discussion? Because MA ultimately is government, right?
Yeah.
And we have an exploding number there.
And I'll try with my 2 cents. You feel free to jump in. I think typically when we look at like the programs or kind of like I think about like schooling mental health or just any of our programs that we run. I think sometimes we talk about it in terms of, well, we look for MA first, oftentimes because so many of our people that access it are on it. And then we look to see, okay, is there another insurance? Because sometimes we don't have people that are dual enrolled. They're here or they're here. And then after that, then it's your state grants that pay for it, schooling, mental health, mobile crisis, etc. However, like when we have situations where somebody is dually enrolled, then if you go to Bill and they have an MCO that is, say, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the state system will mark or indicate that this person has another insurance that says Health Partners. And then if it's the state, if it's another insurance, say they're working, then the state would bill that Health Partners before they would bill the Medicaid managed care organization. So, so from a person perspective, and if they're duly enrolled, we do hit private insurance first. So.
And it's a specific dollar amount that we're able to bill health insurance. So when you think about it as a fire station, you have a group of firemen in the station waiting for the call to come in. That cost is tremendously high as opposed to every time, like in our outpatient clinic, every time a person is served, we're able to bill for it. And we have a set criteria for people to receive services. But to have that team waiting for the calls to come in and then determining, is that a billable service? That's highly costly as well.
And I don't think this is a big majority of the why grant funding has gone up, but it does require consent from the consumer to bill insurance, and we wouldn't not provide services because they refuse to let us bill their insurance. So of course we have motivation to convince them to sign the paperwork, but it wouldn't, there's a possibility that some of the folks in the grant funding are insured.
But have refused
to provide their coverage, and even if we can find it, they didn't consent to the billing.
And it's a possibility that the private insurance doesn't cover that specific billing code.
And we do try to, if it was, let's say, a clinician who did it, we can try to change the billing code is something that they could also go for that also fits, like crisis psychotherapy. But if it was a practitioner, we wouldn't have ability to do that. So we kind of try, but.
Is your, like, for First Call for Help, is it the same group of people that's answering the 24/7 as the social services? Or do they have two distinct teams?
They have, I believe it's one team. They have specific protocols that come up when the phone number rings that is being called. And then the protocol comes up so that the staff know what are the questions to ask the caller and where does the call get transferred to.
I think I remember the last time we talked, one of the issues was turnover and stability in numbers. Has that improved? I haven't heard as many issues from our staff. What are your thoughts on where you're at with that?
So it feels pretty solid when it comes to the emergency social services team. This contract year, and one of the reasons that you're seeing an inflationary increase in our numbers as opposed to 2025 was we've given increases for an individual to be on call and to respond to the call, because we have heard that people were becoming very dissatisfied with our costs, our reimbursement structure for their wages. So Sue's team is pretty solid. They have been with the agency for a long period of time, and she's been able to recruit for people in that position, in those positions. Kelsey, on the other hand, just had another type of situation. Recently, we've seen the resignation of the supervisor for the program that provides services to Scott County. And between Kelsey and Jay, they've been filling in for the supervisor. We've also had some turnover in staff that are on the team. Sometimes that's about wages, and sometimes that's about environment. And lastly, sometimes that's we get a really good employee and they want to move forward in their career and they want to do something else. Often mobile crisis services is an entry level type of position, which is kind of interesting, seeing that most of the time they're doing with emergency situations and not the run-of-the-mill sort of situation that you would experience later in your career in the mental health field.
Which I don't necessarily see as a bad thing, because most people go throughout their master's programs or other higher education in mental health without having considerable training in suicide intervention, treatment, or crisis. So, it's sad to, like, one of our 3 full-time staff moved into outpatient after she finished her master's degree. We're very excited for her, but also feel like we might have equipped her to be a better therapist than she would have been had she not been in crisis. So fact about a lot of crisis teams, but the supervisor role has been tough. It's we have a new person starting in May. Yes.
Well, and if I can share, I think like Kelsey you're not new, like a year and a half.
A year.
Yeah. Okay. I think the addition of Kelsey and guys added like a layer of management in there. I don't know how to, but just from an outside perspective, the communication, it's been great. It's been really helpful. I know the supervisors, I know that we're having some transition with the supervisors, but the supervisors can call up you or the supervisor like that day and talk about an issue that came up. And so the collaboration, I think, has been really great. And like in the community, collaborating with the therapist who's at the school, like we shared a story at the LAC where the coordinated responder, the Canvas mobile crisis provider, and then the school therapist were all able to coordinate because a kiddo was having a tough time at the school. It's just been very happy.
I think speaking about coordinated responders, that also could be an impact on our call volume, because people are getting directly connected to someone who's providing those type of crisis services through their through 911, which is a really good community support. And so we just try to coordinate with them. And I've tried to convince the the departments that we are the backup to those guys or the after hours to those guys, because they start to trust them and they're, only use this person. We're available all the time. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for being
Thanks for coming. Right.
Sounds good.
All right, member.